Richard, England's defeat to France at the weekend knocked them out of the World Cup. What did you make of the campaign as a whole?
It's been disappointing, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, to get to the quarterfinals was the first point of call to navigate our way through, and we achieved that. But sadly, we never really got the campaign going.
A lot of talk about Martin Johnson's future, and what's your opinion? Should he stay on as England manager?
Yeah, there's no point preempting this review. I've got my personal thoughts, but until that review's done, it will be pointless to say what the direction should be. Quite clearly, there's been a number of incidents that have happened off the pitch, on the pitch, which need to have some thought process put to. It goes beyond obviously looking at the World Cup. It needs to go into the preparation. And I, along with a lot of other people, weren't there for the whole of that. So to make sweeping statements would be wrong. And certainly, I believe that there'll be a group put together that will take everything into consideration and ultimately come up with what they believe is the best way forward.
How much do you think this World Cup campaign mirrors that of the 1999 Rugby World Cup?
It's definitely got that feeling of huge disappointment, players that are absolutely gutted, a nation that believe that the team could have gone further and haven't. And certainly in 1999 against South Africa, it's probably one of the most deflated I and a number of the squad were together. And certainly Sir Clive had put on record that judged me on the 99 World Cup, and sadly we weren't up to it, and we got taken apart by a pretty basic game plan by South Africa. But to be fair to Sir Clive, he stated that he wanted to stay in charge. The RFU could see the direction the team were going in, and more importantly could see the quality of players that were around and were developing. And certainly there could be a strong argument for that. If Jono chooses and wants to stay, you could argue that he's got a basis and a core nucleus of players that could go on with the additional players that have been playing for England at junior rep rugby, and in particular if we look at that first stage down from the senior rugby of below Saxons, the under-20s. It's an age group that has been going particularly well, and 3 out of the last 4 finals of the under-20 World Cup have featured England. And if that's a focal point to draw on, then fantastic.
Do you think Wales can go all the way in this World Cup?
They've had a tremendous World Cup, and I think they're probably the country I feel sorry for the most at the moment. I mean, they've come to the quarterfinals, possibly not being given the thought process that they can make it beyond the quarterfinals, and then all of a sudden we're talking about the demise of England rather than the actual way that Wales have approached the tournament. They have, they've had their own difficulties off the pitch in the past, certainly over the last 12 months, but they've been able to clean up their act. They've come into the tournament, they feel completely on top of the game, how they want to play, they're going about their business quite quietly, and I think that's probably one of the things they've enjoyed going to New Zealand and not having possibly some of the media attention and some of the pressure that comes with a nation that so desperately would love to win the World Cup and are passionate about their sport. And you talk about Wales and France being the excitement for a Northern Hemisphere supporter player. Yes, it is. There's no doubt in that. Of course, you want to see that game, but you also want to see the two big Southern Hemisphere teams matching up against one another. They've got some bitter rivalry there, and it will be an intriguing game to watch. And it's again just trying to see who will settle into the way that they want to play. Will it be the Australians allowed to loop and zoop? With Quade Cooper calling the shots. Australia definitely have to hope that he has a more better tactical game or is given more freedom, but I can't imagine New Zealand will give him any more freedom on the ball. So whether they'll need to rely on Berwick Barnes, whether he'll get the nod to start, just so that they've got some field position if it's not quite going to plan. In my eyes, there's no point making complete radical changes. Yes, you've got to look towards 2015. It's got to be in the back of our minds, but you also need to know that you've got to bring players in the last thing you want to do is bring young players in who could potentially be 1 year away from realising their potential and actually knocking the confidence and the stuffing out of them. So, although I do believe there should be definitely some changes in terms of personnel to the starting team, I wouldn't go with a belief that anyone that we don't think is going to be around in 2015 should be discarded now, because you do need some leadership and some sound decision makers in amongst developing young players. A lot can be said about being out of position, but if that was the case, then I played out of position virtually my whole rugby career for England. I mean, I played for Saracens as an open side flanker, yet vast majority of my caps as a blind side flanker, regardless of whether I had a 6 on my back or an 8 on my back. You go with a team that you believe are going to win on the day. England will have picked a team to take on Ireland in the final Six Nations game, and I think it's completely wrong to have a belief that would be the team that would be playing in a quarter-final of a World Cup.